We're in gate 48, and I invite you to explore the 6th line with me. The 6th line is called self-fulfillment. And we know that the 6th line is a line of transition. It's looking over the whole circuit. It's looking over the hedge to see what's coming next. It's the roof of the house. And we have a lifetime learning, which says an undiminished resource. This is the only line in gate 48 that has a lifetime learning. 48.6 is an undiminished resource, but only later in its process. The 48 gets a little more selective in its midlife, at least in the 6th line. It starts off with solutions for everything, only to realize that, because of the inadequacies of the other, those solutions rarely manifest in a way that's acceptable or satisfying to this line. 48.6 is any 6th line can be a bit of a perfectionist. The exaltation, the valued center that as it gives, it receives, and thus can continue to give. A depth and potential talent that is of value to others. It's of value to others in that it's always ready to offer a solution, but it's not necessarily ready to live its own solutions. In other words, it could say to somebody, hey, you should eat algae and nuts for the rest of your life. Although that's not what you're necessarily going to do, and that can be also typical of a 6th line. It's sort of do as I say, not as I do. They can often be accused of hypocrisy. They have a solution for you. They have a solution for the collective, but they don't necessarily have anything to do with it themselves because they've learned not to get involved in the whole process. Remember that our 6 lines are aloof. So they can give it, but they don't necessarily live it. And they're definitely not inadequate. They are people with depth and understanding, but they don't particularly care whether they experiment with it or not. They're not really bothered about whether they understand it or not. Well, only if they give out their understanding will the opportunity for experimentation come back to them. And the moment they do that, then they're of value to other human beings. They can be very gifted. They can intuitively recognize what is beyond the skills on the other side, what the indication or the direction is afterwards when the experiment has been proven. They recognize intuitively what can transpire out of that experiment. In the detriment, we have a tendency to superficiality that, though generous and nurturing, will lack the inspirational quality that can transform its gifts into a common currency. Where the depth is limited, the taste will be superficial and affect the quality of the possible talent. You can't be a 6 unless you grow up as a 3. That's the way it works. You have to go through the experience. You're not born up there on the hill. The real difficulty for the 48 is that it's a collective channel or a collective gate. It is social. Although it's a projector gate, the stream of taste that runs from the root, which is the motor, up to the throat in the 16, it does give potential to the 48 to be a manifester gate, to be part of a manifester design. So there's some power here, Logical manifesting gates have a lot of power. The 6th line, it sits up there and it can say, I decide what the experiment will be, nobody else. And if I don't like your solution, we're not going to experiment with it. Nobody will ever even hear about it. Now, the 16 at the other end of the channel, all it can do really is act as the publicist for the 48. That's what it does. It's the one that says, hey, I identify with this new solution, or I've heard of this great solution, or there's this amazing concept for an experiment. All I need is your backing. Would you please give me some money, or maybe some energy, or some time, whatever the case may be. That's what the 16 does. There are as many solutions as there are 48s. And only those solutions that have real collective value are going to end up being expressed and experimented with. An experiment, of course, that must be proven again and again. It must be, oh, what's the word? Verified. It must be verified. The collective have to accept it. And it's not going to accept anything that hasn't been through this process of repetition, verification. The logical process can take a long time. Just think how long it can take to change a law or legislation. The endless chain that you have to go through step by step, the committees, the forms. It's easy to understand why this well of solutions can get so deeply frustrated. There's so much that has to go on before that solution can be part of the world, if at all, if ever. And in many cases, it never gets past the possibility of something that could be experimented with. So what can happen very easily is that the 48.6, it steps out, no more, don't want anything to do with this. And then later in life, they lack the depth that is necessary to really have value, to be the ones who can say that solution is worth experimenting with. They haven't sort of earned the right to say that. 48.6s are often sounding boards for other 48s. Do you like my soapbox? No, it's never going to sell. Or, yeah, whatever the case may be, but the 48.6 has that perspective. No one's ever going to be interested in that. You'll never get financial backing for that. Because that's what they're good at. That's part of their job, is to take that bigger view, that bigger perspective, and bring that wisdom to everyone else. So I mentioned to you at the beginning of this exploration that the 48th gate is a gate of black magic. That's what Ra used to call it. And one of the things that we've seen in logical solutions is that they have to wait for all of the things that have to go on, all of the committees, the approvals, the grants, the rubber stamps. There's an endlessly frustrating process. And it may never actually get the opportunity to see the experiment fulfilled. So when you get to the 6th line of the 48, you get to see why there is this reputation for black magic, because it's ready to just chuck the whole logical process in the bin and leap into mutation. It leaps into individuality, into self-empowerment. And that's partly why, of course, why this line is called self-fulfillment. It's going to just get out there, do it itself. It's not waiting to go through that logical process. It doesn't want to wait for recognition or for the collective to finally decide, yes, we'll take it. For the 48, in its frustration, it always calls upon the forces of mutation. That's why it gets its dark reputation. It no longer trusts in the capacity of the collective to finally move the thing, to actually get it done, and would rather have some kind of intervention, divine or otherwise, anything to get it into action, to immediately make it present. And only individuality and mutation can do that. Spontaneous mutation is a reality. It can happen at any time, anywhere, because that is its nature. And where does that live? That intuitive, individual, in the moment mutation lives in gate 57. And that is where we go next in our journey, with the hexagram called the gentle, the gate of intuitive insight. And we have the grounding to the line of self-fulfillment in gate 21, line 6, which is called chaos. And if the 48.6 withholds its wisdom from the collective, if it can see what a logical solution is, but refuses to share that understanding, perhaps chaos is the result. Or perhaps instead of waiting for recognition, it goes ahead and it just draws it itself. It's like, come, get it, well, mutation, individuality, how'd it go? Then maybe that's going to cause chaos. That was a bit of a chaotic explanation, actually, wasn't it? So maybe that's the chaos. It's collective. Maybe this 21.6 is a warning. That's a warning of, a cautionary note, we could say. I've forgotten. Do you know what? It's completely gone out of my head. If you've got the 48.6, please let me know what you think. I'm just gonna, not the 48.6, the 21.6. It is called chaos. Yes, it's definitely called chaos. Totally lost my train of thought there. I can't blame a blackbird at all. Yeah, let's have a look at the moon. The moon has been in gate 34, the gate of power, since 20 to midnight. No, 20 to 1. 20 to 1 this morning. This is the sacral, individual, empowering gate. It's powerful. It does what it says on the tin. And then we move into gate 9 at 11:54, the taming power of the small. You know, this is the gate of focus. And it's another sacral gate, and it tells us that potential can be fulfilled through detailed attention to all pertinent aspects. It's the determination to direct energy and focus on what is essential for one's own process, and to persevere in putting energy towards all pertinent aspects of a given subject or a given project. Now, it's a useful energy to have if you're studying this gate 9, especially if you've got a 52 around, because they can help you to sit still and really concentrate with your powerful focus. It's part of the same circuitry as our 48, part of logical circuitry. So it helps 48 to really focus in and find its depth and really what's the correct solution, bring it out. So today is a double Sunday, so there will be another moon gate, but I will present that in the next one because it comes in just after the sun transits to gate 57. So I'll wait and do that then. So look out for another report later on today. Well, there'll be 2 reports actually, because there'll be the overview for 57 and there'll also be the first line. So yeah, busy day. Enjoy your day today, your 48 line 6. And I will see you for some intuitive insight later on today. Thank you very much for joining me. As always, love yourselves and go gently through this splenic season. It can be very trying. And yeah, that's all. I'll see you later on. Bye-bye.